we both love to play bluegrass music, right? But what is bluegrass music?
Bluegrass is a type of music that originated in the southern United States, typically played on acoustic instruments such as the banjo, guitar, fiddle, mandolin, and bass fiddle, characterized by rapid tempos and jazz-like improvisation. The name bluegrass refers to the state of Kentucky known as the Bluegrass State.
We'll be back a little later, but right now, let's hear what Ricky Skaggs has to say.
I don't know why that bluegrass music has that live sound, but it just feels so, there's just such an excitement about bluegrass. You can't hear it and be in the presence of it and not like it. I mean, there's something about it that's just, it's just so cool, you know, and I've been bitten by the bug since I was 5 years old.
Bill Monroe is known as the father of bluegrass music. He was born in 1911 on a small farm in Rosine, Kentucky. He learned to play the guitar and mandolin when he was 8 years old.
Bill learned a lot of his music from his Uncle Pen Vandiver, who was an old-time fiddler. They would travel the Kentucky hills together and play local dances. During these travels, Bill met Arnold Schultz, an African-American musician who played blues guitar and fiddle. Later, when Bill Monroe began to write his own songs, the blues would become an important part of his music.
Bill Monroe started out playing music professionally with his brothers Charlie and Birch. No one else wanted to play the mandolin, and since Bill was the youngest, that became his instrument.
Bill Monroe created a style when he was playing with Charlie, his brother, in the 30s, from 36 to about 38. They did like 60 recordings for Bluebird, and he would play, you know, he'd play
In 1939, Bill started his own band, the Bluegrass Boys, named after his home state of Kentucky. He set out to create his own unique sound. He combined the music he had listened to growing up, the Scotch-Irish dance tunes, English ballads, the African-American blues, and the hymns and harmonies of the church. He was also influenced by the radio, listening to string bands and performers like Jimmie Rodgers.
Good morning, Captain. Good morning, Shine.
And the Carter Family, featuring Maybelle on guitar.
He learned a lot of music from Jimmie Rodgers, and a lot of music from bluesmen. There was a guy named Arnold Schultz that was a black blues guitar player that played over in western Kentucky around Beaver Dam, real close to Rosine, where he was born and raised. And Bill Monroe had this, you know, had this Mississippi River Delta kind of blues influence in his, you know, in his music as well. You know, like a lot of blues guys would and Bill Monroe would
he combined sort of a rural black blues music with Scottish and Irish fiddle styles that had come to America, you know, via generations of fiddlers. And so to me, bluegrass is sort of a marriage of the blues, a country, acoustic, rural people blues with the Scottish and Irish fiddling. But his love of fiddle music and the way he transferred it into the mandolin style, then that changed the whole thing too for mandolin players.
In 1946, Bill Monroe finally found the unique sound he had been looking for. He put together a top-notch group of musicians. Lester Flatt sang lead vocal and played guitar, combined with Earl Scruggs' lightning-fast three-finger banjo style, a new style of picking that was very different from the old clawhammer style.
Fiddler Chubby Wise added quick jazzy fiddle lines along with the solid bass playing of Cedric Rainwater. Bill Monroe's own unusual rhythm and powerful solos on the mandolin anchored this new, hard-driving sound which was unlike any music people had heard before. The sound of Monroe and Scruggs' new way of playing the mandolin and banjo combined with other instruments and vocals gelled into what is known today as the classic sound of bluegrass music.
The thing about Bill Monroe was he was like a quadruple threat to anybody because he was a songwriter, he was a instrumentalist, he was a lead musician, he was a rhythm musician, he was a lead singer, he was a tenor singer, and he was a, did I say songwriter? I don't know, and he was a leader of a band, recorded on a major label, so we're just fortunate that he and Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs and Chubby Wise and Cedric Rainwater, they recorded back in the middle 40s on a major label, and we still have those records.
There was something that happened in the early 50s that it seemed like Bill's voice went higher, because Jimmy Martin sang higher than Lester Flatt did, and they started singing, you know, this kind of real high, lonesome kind of sound, you know. So through the 50s, it was like rock and roll. He wasn't a balladeer singer from the Grand Ole Opry. It was like acoustic rock and roll. I mean, it really had the fire, and it really is what caught those guys' attention, is because he had that fire and the passion for the music.
Bill Monroe worked hard to spread his bluegrass music. He and his band traveled thousands of miles each year in their stretch limo called the Bluegrass Express, playing countless shows in small towns throughout the South. They returned every Saturday night to Nashville to perform for a national audience on the Grand Ole Opry radio show.
The Bluegrass Boys went through many different band members over the years, but always kept the same bluegrass sound. Bill Monroe was a demanding boss, and his band served as a training ground for dozens of future bluegrass stars.
I grew up around this music, and I was fortunate enough to see Bill Monroe play and be around Bill Monroe. I guess I got the bug when I was 13 years old, and I saw him play one night in New York City, traveling with my dad, and it kind of inspired me that night to pick up the mandolin. So I've been playing it now 22 years, and he is my mandolin hero. He's the guy that truly inspired me to play it.
My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. Down the side of town, honey, I won't be around. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore.
Well, I mean, Bill's music was, he kind of, when he started bluegrass, it must have been like a jazz thing for old-time people, because, I mean, it was so far removed from the old-time string bands and other ways that people played fiddle tunes and stuff. I mean, he took all that and made it a style.
The 1950s are known as the golden years of bluegrass. Bill Monroe's bluegrass music influenced other musicians who picked up on the sound and added their own individual styles to the music. Some of the earlier bluegrass pioneers included
The Stanley Brothers. Ralph and Carter Stanley created their own sound, mixing traditional mountain ballads, straight-ahead Monroe-style bluegrass, and old-time string band music.
Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs left Bill Monroe's groundbreaking Bluegrass Boys and achieved huge success with their own band, the Foggy Mountain Boys. They had mega hits with the Ballad of Jed Clampett, the theme to the TV show The Beverly Hillbillies, and Foggy Mountain Breakdown.
Jimmy Martin was also a former bluegrass boy. He created his own version of high-energy bluegrass.
If ever I get back to that state of Tennessee, I tell you there'll be no more roaming for me. That little sweetheart said she'd marry me as soon as I get back to that state of Tennessee.
Reno and Smiley brought a new flavor to bluegrass with Don Reno's single-string melodic banjo picking and Red Smiley's smooth vocals.
Jim and Jesse McReynolds were early bluegrass stars with their tight vocal harmonies and Jesse's revolutionary lightning-fast cross-picking style on the mandolin.
18 wheels are rolling, taking me down the line. Truck stops in my memories, and pretty girls on my mind.
Another major influence was Josh Graves, who introduced the dobro guitar.
It was on a moonlight night, the stars shining bright, and it was bitter from the high. You all said goodbye. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gonna say goodbye.
Mr. Bill Monroe.
Up next, we'll find out how traditional bluegrass music and the early artists will go on to influence a whole new generation of artists and fans.